welcome to Bus Speakers. I'm Kush.
And it's Alex, your boy. I don't know.
Was not expecting that at all, but
I'm just excited because I really love Depeche Mode, man.
yeah. So as you heard, we're gonna be reviewing "Spirit" by Depeche Mode. Well, you probably saw it on the title too. Anyways, um, uh, so I'm gonna give a bit of a rant, or not rant, but like, I've never heard Depeche Mode in a full album context. Not that I don't like them or anything. The few individual songs I've listened to, I have enjoyed. I just never got around to it, and they were never like no one has like ever heavily recommended it to me or anything until Alex. Alex is a big fan, but um, he said let's review this album. So I'm like, Depeche Mode might be a good introduction. I look it up online, and people are kind of mad about this album. I think the general consensus is
Yeah,
that people are upset with the way this album is written, or I'm not sure what they're upset about. Because personally, I thought it was a
I can
decent
tell you
album.
probably.
I thought it was a
Yeah,
decent album. I didn't think it was bad. They had some really good songs that I enjoyed. There were a couple
yeah,
songs. There's a couple songs I didn't enjoy, but like it's almost every album. And for an introduction to Depeche Mode, I enjoyed this. I don't think that it was necessarily a terrible album as most people are portraying it to be.
yeah. I could tell you that people aren't liking this just because the first four songs are so heavily politically minded, basically,
Yeah, that's
and
what
they
I'm
don't want
thinking.
Depeche Mode to be politically minded. They want them to make fun synth pop songs, I guess. Even though they've always had political influence in their songs, like the song Everything Counts is basically about consumerism of big corporations, and people are people, and master and servant. These are all politically minded songs. So yeah, Depeche Mode are one of my all-time favorite bands. Full stop. Top five. Something about their composition of like electronic heavy pop music in the 80s, which is actually weird to think about because it's not that far away from EDM, is it? Synth pop, but and they adopted more of a rock sound in the 90s, and all that stuff really gels with me. The more recent stuff has been okay, like 2005's Playing the Angel was really solid and some of their best songs on it. And their last album, Delta Machine, was a decent effort as well. I'm not saying I expected this to be the next Violator, which I don't know if you've seen that album cover or
No, yeah,
anything about
I
that,
know
Kush, but that's
about
generally
Violator.
considered to be the yeah, it's considered the best one, which would be a bit much better introduction into their music than this. But just before we go into it, update for you people worried about Dave Gahan's vocals, because that's been a concern for the last 15 or so years. They're no worse than on Delta Machine, and if you deal with them on there, although it does become a problem on one or two of these songs, which we'll get into, he's at the point where he could sound a lot older than he does right now. So, I take it with a grain of salt. I mean, he still basically sounds the same as he did in the 80s, just less useful and with less energy, basically, which, he's in his mid-50s. What can you expect? So, yeah, as expected. Not one of their best efforts, but yeah.
So I didn't know there was anything about his vocals because I didn't mind him at all on
Yeah.
this album. I thought they were okay. Uh,
Yeah, they're okay.
so for me, uh, about the political aspect, I think that some of the political music is the best music to make because there's actual talking points there. Whether you agree or not,
That's true.
they're talking about something rather than just bubbling about random garbage. Um, which I think he has both of those on this album. I think my favorite song, I don't know about you, is "The Worst Crime." Uh,
It's one of my favorites.
I love that song. It's just so slow, and he's portraying the storyline is really interesting, talking about like treason and the protagonist not knowing that he even committed treason, but he's being subjected for it. And he's talking
Yeah.
about like how he's gonna get executed. Obviously, some dystopian world, obviously, but that was a fantastic song, and the style is completely different than the previous two, which are more synth pop, and this is more like acoustic. Um, but then
Yeah.
but like see those are lyrics that actually mean something. They have substance to them. Whereas the song "You Move," which is my least favorite song, uh,
Pretty.
it sounds like something off of a Fast and Furious movie. Um, his seductive style lyrics are kind of off-putting for me. I don't think like it.
Okay. That is a big problem with a recent Depeche Mode, is that on his last album, it's not unfair because Martin Gore is basically the heart of Depeche Mode. Dave Gahan is a great vocalist, but he only sings, which is obviously as good a point. But Martin Gore basically is the brainchild of Depeche Mode. Okay, so he's done this creepy old guy love song before, you know, that this song kind of is, on the last album with Soothe My Soul, where it sounds like he's trying to be all seductive and cool, but he just sounds old and creepy to me. And I'm sure you feel the same. This feels like a weird old man version of The Way You Move by Outkast, except that's a great pop song. This is a weird song.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a fresh breath air because it's like the first song that's not political, but you don't want it to be like this creepy and dirty.
But the thing is, I don't mind the
instruments, but that's it.
I don't mind the political songs because I think he's not really talking about a certain side, like this side or that side. I think he's talking about like we need more political action. Doesn't matter where you stand. I think he's just saying that we need something. We need some change because we've been stuck in this rut of same political aspects too long. Where I honestly didn't mind those songs. I don't see why people are upset about it. And like people ever since his latest election, people are upset about artists portraying political views, which is kind of stupid to me because they're people too and they have a right to have any views they want. But I think for the most part, the instrumentation of all these songs are really, really dynamic. I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah.
They had a lot of interesting things going on. I think the song here, "You Move," is the weirdest and most cringy and boring song of this album. I also didn't like "Scum" because the vocals were really odd and just kind of abrasive to me.
Yeah.
It's not like bad, but it's just lackluster and there's not real much substance to it. And they keep saying "Hey Scum" and the filters just kind of hurt your ears at one point. But those two songs were probably the most offensive to me. The rest were pretty decent for the most part.
Yeah, the problem with the thing with the political songs is, on The Worst Crime and Going Backwards, they're good songs. But Where's the Revolution? That's like the big single, the big hit, even though it's not a hit anywhere. You know, it's significantly more politically minded than the first one, and the only problem I have with this is he has a "Come on people, you're letting me down," which seems at odds with how a revolution starts. It's not as if David Gahan is a like anti-establishment revolutionary speaker and he's like specifically always wanted people to start a revolution. I always think back to the phrase "the revolution will not be televised." That means that if a revolution was going to start, nobody would know about it because the media aren't going to cover it. If it was an actual revolution that would uproot the media, you know, people would try, the government, if they knew about it, would try and suppress it without the masses knowing, because if the masses know about a revolution, they'll join it, most likely, especially if it's gaining ground. So the fact he's like, "Where's the revolution?" If one was going on, he wouldn't know about it, because he's a 55-year-old old musician guy, obviously, who has had huge amounts of success within the confines of the music conglomerate establishment. So I know this is about Trump, basically, and other dubious world leaders telling lies and taking advantage of the masses. But, you know, he's a pop singer. He's delusional about, you know, people letting him down. But I can live with it, though, because John Lennon and Yoko Ono, they had their political kick in the early 70s, you know, against Nixon. And they released that really misinformed political album from 1972 called Sometime in New York City, which was significantly more naive about people not having a revolution. Actually, the Beatles have a song called Revolution, which works really well. But John, in his solo career, he did not know what to do
he went
for a lot
bonkers.
of it. Yeah, Power to the People worked because it was just about getting people together, but I don't know, songs like John Sinclair, by the time the album was out, John Sinclair was out of prison. No point. I suppose it took ages for albums to come out then, but in a sense, these songs are still relevant politically because they're talking about things that can't be changed. But yeah, I just don't think Where's the Revolution is that good of a song anyway. Like,
Yeah, I thought it was
a bit
okay.
slow. It's okay, but I can only just about bear it. It's like one of those songs that just too paranoid and overtly political for me to just you know what I mean? He's like a bit
Yeah, yeah.
delusional about a revolution. That's the only point where political aspect of this bothers me. Because going backwards, I'm sure you can agree, is quite a good song anyway, and it's about, you know, the human race going backwards.
Yeah, Going Backwards is a good song. Another song that I really wanted us to talk about was Cover Me was fantastic. I loved Cover Me. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I thought that it was a more romantic song, but it wasn't like really off putting like the last song. And he was like, it was more of a subtle, like, stay with me sort of relationship instead of like, come here, girl, I'm gonna touch you everywhere.
No, yeah. Yeah, it's the first non-political song that isn't a creepy old man, so
Yeah.
yeah,
A lot of people, I read a couple articles on this album because I was just not sure what to think of it at first. A lot of people were mad about the song Eternal. Um, I thought it was a really
no idea why. That's a beautiful song in my
yeah.
mind.
It was like this sounds like it was like organs at a funeral for most of it, and it was like really haunting vocals with the mix of the production. It's just really noisy and powerful, and I was just impressed by that song because everything flows together really really well. Uh, but people were
The
not happy.
reason why maybe that's such a good song is because Martin Gore sings it instead of Dave Gahan. He sings that and Fail. He's got like a tenor voice, while Dave Gahan, I don't know where I got Martin from. Oh, it's Martin Gore, never mind. I'm going a bit mental, mate. Dave Gahan's more baritone, and Martin Gore's more, tenor. So his vocals basically always do ballads, nice ballads like this. So
Yeah,
yeah, I really love that. So,
I just love the noisy
any
aspect
other
to it.
favorites?
I think, but the rest of the songs were mostly passable. I wasn't upset by that.
Oh,
Uh,
dear, Kush. I've got my two favorites haven't even been mentioned yet.
oh, is
Oh
it
dear.
Poor Man?
That's okay though, because no, I did. The thing with Poor Man is, do you not like that?
No, I
I
thought it
think
was
it was okay.
decent. Yeah, I think the problem with that song was his vocals were a little weird. Uh,
This is technically another political song, and
yeah,
most people not caring about it. Basically, the same thing as Another Day in Paradise by Phil Collins. He seems to always get mentions, doesn't he, Phil Collins?
yeah.
Just must be because I'm a fan, I guess. But this is like a weird blues song almost, just because it's weird and ragged. It's like a neo-electronic blues song, which is weird. It's too
So
slow and depressing for me to really like it, but
yeah,
it's hopeless because we can, like, there's a homeless person who died at the time of recording today. We can't help this person, and a song called Poor Man isn't going to help this person. So it's good that he's talking about it a bit, but it doesn't really change much, if you know what I mean.
yeah. I mean, I guess awareness is the first step to fixing the problem. But yeah,
My two favourites were Poison Heart and No More, This Is the Last Time.
yeah. But both the songs I
Uh,
thought were pretty decent songs. I was
do you like those?
yeah. I thought both of them were pretty decent. The only songs that really just turned me off were Scum and Your Inumu. But every other song on here was pretty decent. Had aspects that I really liked. But the ones that stood out was Eternal and The Worst Crime.
Yeah, Poison Heart, I basically like it because it's the only up-tempo rock song which reminds me of Personal Jesus and I Feel You, and even Policy of Truth and other more rock type. This would have been a good choice for a single, I'd say, Poison Heart. So it comes closest to me for sounding like the classic Depeche Mode I want to have. And, it doesn't do anything inventive, but there are no embarrassing political misinformed lines like there are in a few of these songs. Just a solid performance with nice feedback heavy guitars. And man, No More, This Is the Last Time. This is the best chorus on the album, even though it doesn't have that much energy. I think this is the best constructed chorus on the album. Really infectious. Love the high melodic synth blasts on this song. It's really succinct as well. I could easily see this being 5 minutes long, but it's around 3. I really like that about that song.
Did that song have anything to imply with the end of Depeche Mode? Because
What, this is the last time?
yeah,
I didn't actually catch a bit of that for some reason. I just saw it as a weird. That's the thing though, because it's not a love song, is it? It's not about a
no,
romance.
because
So yeah, you're right.
the way he frames that song, it makes me feel like he's talking about like, and I know nothing about Depeche Mode. Like I'm the last person to say anything about this, but um, he said something along the lines of, uh, "This is the end," or "No more," and whatever. But like, it just said something about like the end of Depeche Mode. At least that's what I felt like. And I don't know anything about. I don't know if anyone has speculated that at all. But yeah,
Not seen any speculation. I've always got the impression that Depeche Mode were fairly happy with each other, but it is a weird unit. Like I've said before, Martin Gore is he's basically the guy who makes all of the instrumentals and composes all of the songs. Dave Gahan sings over most of them, other than the songs Martin Gore sings. And then we get Andrew Fletcher, who is not the most useful member. He's basically amounts to hand claps, a few keyboard parts if you're lucky, and I don't know, he's just not very useful. So the band dynamic is very disjointed. Martin Gore is like the real legend behind Depeche Mode ever since Alan Wilder left in the mid 90s. So yeah, I don't know what you thought of. Obviously, you're not aware of the members, Kush, really, are you?
no, I just listened to this album and I thought it was pretty decent.
Fair enough. That's what we do most of the time when we cover something. Uh, the only other song we could maybe talk about is the last song, Failed, which is another song sung by Martin Gore. Now, I remember Goodbye from Delta Machine, which is the last song on the album before this, was like in a weird spaghetti western country song guitar riff, which really worked. How do we do here? Well, the fact is Martin Gore's voice isn't like buried in atmospherics like on Eternal. His vocals are really frail on here. Like, I don't know if you knew it was a different vocalist, but he sounds like a guy who's been really affected by the government and life, and there's real emotional discourse when he sings "We Failed" as the last line on the album. Like, if you think "No More, This Is the Last Time" might hint at, this is the end of Depeche Mode, the fact the last line on the album is "We Failed," that's a really sad, like, last line for a great band, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. Because it started
But
off this,
obviously, yeah, this is about failed as in, like, as a human race or species.
for me, this song was, um, I don't know how to explain it. So like, I started off thinking it was kind of lackluster for a final track and kind of boring, but it does pick up and become interesting. But ultimately,
Yeah,
in the end, I feel like it wasn't the best closing track, but the last line hit me like real hard.
that
Um,
we failed.
yeah, it was slightly repetitive, I would say, just a bit over repetitive. Um, but honestly, this album is not as bad as people are making it out to seem. Maybe it's because
Absolutely not.
I think people have this like god tier thing for Depeche Mode because like Depeche Mode fans will like just touch themselves over this any Depeche Mode album any day. And,
Can
I,
assure you I was not doing that.
but I think it was a
Especially
good.
not on the creepy old man voice songs, definitely not.
But I think they're just expecting something over the top and something that they something like one of their older albums. But honestly, it wasn't that bad. I think people are overreacting to
Uh,
how bad it
yeah,
was.
definitely. And one more thing just before we go into our ratings is I know we don't usually talk about album covers, but for some reason, the feet and the flags, which is meant to signify, like, I don't know, a drove of people protesting or marching somewhere. So that for some reason, I thought the album cover was cute in a way. I don't know. It like it's really like. Do you know what I mean? Though it like
No,
looks
yeah,
like a
yeah.
little kid's drawing or something.
I think
Even though it's
so.
obviously depicted something very, very not cute, I guess, if it's people marching in a revolution. But I don't know. I really like the album cover, and I like the whole album. I mean, yeah.
I think the logo is terrible, but that's beside the point.
The logo. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, well,
the DNM.
I guess. I don't think they've even had that for a long. That might be a new logo.
Yeah, but honestly, what would you rate it, Alex?
Okay, so I'm basically the type of person you were describing there. I should be prepped for not liking this, just because it's not another Violator, it's not another Songs of Hate and Devotion. I'm forgetting their album titles, that's really bad. It's not another Ultra, it's not another Playing the Angel. Okay, I've got them on iTunes now, great, I can say their album titles. Music for the masses, Black Celebration. It's not like any of them. Uh, starting off with four political songs might be a bit of a turn off for people, but once you get past those, and even though I love going backwards in the worst crime, you get a weird variety of stuff with some really great songs. This is probably easier to listen to than Delta Machine, and if you can ignore the political lyrics, even though that might be a bit hard, it's really solid, even though a few vocals sound a bit creepy and seductive when he probably shouldn't be. It's a pretty good album by them, all in all, and that's basically all I want. So I do admit, it's obviously not one of their best, but 7 out of 10, I really liked it.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the same score. I would give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a good album. I wasn't like turned off by it in any sense. I wasn't upset with it. For an introduction, it wasn't bad. I'm definitely
Yeah.
intrigued because like if this is people are really upset by this, I mean that must mean that the other albums are really good. Um,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I like the dynamic they have with instrumentation and the live instruments, and as well as the synthetic synth pops, uh, synth pop style. Honestly, I thought it was good. Even though the political songs didn't like make me upset or anything, I think they were also good, despite being kind of misinformed for some of them. But
Yeah.
he did develop some good storylines for the most part.
Yeah. Basically, if you're a Depeche Mode fan, stop expecting another Violator and get listening. Woohoo.
Well, if that's it, then thanks for tuning to Busted Speakers. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you like and subscribe. Check out some of our other reviews, and check us out on social media.